Welcome back to NatFL, everybody. There are good news today. Will Fuller eagerly enter the 2021 season with Cannon, Tua Tagovailoa? Miami Dolphins re-signed Mack Hollins with one more year's contract. Ja'Marr Chase, Penei Sewell or Kyle Pitts who will come to Dolphins at number 3, number 18 draft pick. PFF analysis. Alabama Devonta Smith's size won't limit him at Miami Dolphins. Okay, here we go. Don't forget to subscribe for news-type Dolphins videos. Will Fuller eagerly to prove his worth in the league? Will Fuller knows he has plenty to prove in his pursuit to be paid like a number 1 receiver. This year's free agency market told him that loud and clear, as 5 days passed before he had an agreement with the Miami Dolphins on a 1-year, $10.625 million deal with incentives up to $3 million. He's using that as motivation. "I wanted to take a 1 year just to prove my worth in the league," Fuller said Tuesday. "I've had my fair share of injuries, and I've been working really hard. I just want to prove to the NFL, to the Dolphins for taking a chance on me, that I'm a player that they would love to have long-term." Fuller entered free agency as one of the top receivers available, with rare speed and deep threat ability that NFL teams covet. But when the contracts were signed, Kenny Golladay, 4 years, $72 million with New York Giants, and Corey Davis, 3 years, $37.5 million with New York Jets, and Curtis Samuel, 3 years, with Washington, received lucrative multi-year deals while Fuller had just a 1-year commitment. Injuries might have hurt Fuller the most. He has played just 53 of 80 games and has eclipsed 11 games in a season only once, and his late-season suspension for violating the league's performance-enhancing drugs policy didn't help, either. Fuller assured the Dolphins that it was a one-time thing, completely accidental, that's never going to happen again. Fuller said he's been working with Houston sports trainer Ben Fairchild on specialized training, with the goal of playing a complete season for the first time as a pro. His Dolphins debut will have to wait until Week 2, as he serves the final game of his PED suspension in Week 1. Despite the 1-year deal, Fuller didn't express any disappointment over how his free agency experience went. Instead, he raved about the opportunity in Miami. Fuller might be in the perfect spot for a breakout season, on a young, ascending team in need of offensive playmakers, with a second-year quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa who has plenty to prove, too. Fuller said he has already talked to Tagovailoa, whom he called an electric player, on the phone and via texts about setting up Miami workouts very soon. Miami Dolphins re-signed Mack Hollins with one more year's contract. While the Miami Dolphins are presumed to be in the market for overhauling their wide receiver room, much of the offseason reinforcements to the group at this point in time are coming from players who are already under contract with the Dolphins in 2020. Miami is rumored to be ready to accommodate the likes of Albert Wilson and Allen Hurns entering the start of training camp this summer. A NatFL's private source indicated that both are in the team's plans. But reinforcements don't stop there. Also now aligned to be back is Mack Hollins, who resigned with the Dolphins this afternoon and will ensure he is back for his 3rd year of the Chris Grier, Brian Flores regime. While this may come as a bit of a surprise, the Dolphins will likely be using Hollins primarily for depth and for special teams reps. He's a standout gunner and kick coverage option on special teams, so there's value for having Hollins in the picture for the Dolphins beyond just being a low-ceiling wide receiver. The challenge for Miami is determining what the wide receiver room looks like and how many players the team will carry. The Dolphins have signed Will Fuller to a 1-year contract and, when paired with Hurns, Wilson and Hollins and returning talents alongside Devontae Parker, Jakeem Grant, Lynn Bowden Jr. and Preston Williams, the wide receiver room is getting crowded fairly quickly. If the Dolphins are going to overhaul the entirety of the room, they're doing a very good job of hiding their intentions. Of course, training camp or the NFL draft could prompt a change if the Dolphins get a good offer for an existing player to get traded away. There are some cost-cutting opportunities for the Dolphins as well, but one would assume with how the team has tackled their approach thus far that the Dolphins are waiting to see which players they can secure before making any harsh. Kyle Pitts, an extraordinary athlete, could be the name chosen by Dolphins in the 1st round. Ja'Marr Chase, Penei Sewell, Kyle Pitts. If the Miami Dolphins are unable to facilitate a trade out of the number 3 overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the team's options will be best narrowed down to these candidates. Miami, a team in need of an offensive boost, would be well served to add each. The argument could be made for any of the group to be drafted. But the prospect who seems to have the most momentum right now is Florida State Kyle Pitts, a freakish athlete who ran somewhere around 4.50s in the 40-yard dash. He'd tell you it was a 4.46s run, at 246 pounds. Pitts is a phenomenal athlete regardless. But some will question the merits of a tight end being made a top 3 overall selection versus drafting an offensive tackle or a wide receiver. But if you're looking for the best argument to be made for the Dolphins to indeed draft Pitts in the event that they stay in line with the number 3 overall pick, you don't need to look any further than Miami's second most recent football game in Week 16 against the Las Vegas Raiders. Miami won contest courtesy of a little bit of Fitzmagic, but nearly saw their hopes slip through the cracks thanks in large part to one of the prospects Pitts is most commonly compared to, Raiders tight end Darren Waller. The man assigned to cover Waller that night? Defensive back Eric Rowe, generally one of the most sturdy coverage safeties against opposing tight ends in all of football. Rowe, on the year, yielded an opposing passer rating of 76.9 against him in coverage according to Pro Football Focus and allowed just 1 touchdown in coverage. In 14 of Miami's 16 contests in 2020, Rowe allowed less than 40 yards in coverage while primarily covering opposing tight ends. But in Week 16 against Darren Waller, Rowe was targeted 9 times and conceded 7 completions for 120 yards. Waller was unstoppable. And that's a great reminder of what a player of his, and Pitt's, caliber is capable of offensively. The only other tight end in the NFL to tag Rowe for big numbers in 2020 was Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. The games against the Raiders and Chiefs logged 231, 115.5 YPG, of Rowe's 508 total yards conceded on the season according to Pro Football Focus. Against teams that featured top-flight tight ends, Rowe allowed 115.5 yards per game. Across the other 14 games on the season, he allowed an average of 19.8 receiving yards. So let that performance serve Dolphins fans with a reminder of what a player in the model of a Darren Waller or Kyle Pitts can be capable of. And then one must ask themselves, why wouldn't you want that? If Miami stands firm at number 3 overall, it will likely be the team's only crack at drafting Pitts. But recent history against players cut from the same cloth would indicate that it is. Why Alabama WR Devonta Smith's size won't limit him in the NFL. In the NFL today, per Pro Football Reference, there are exactly 19 receivers who tip the scales at a maximum of 175 pounds. Deshaun Jackson, who just signed a 1-year deal with the Rams, is the most prominent of them, with 612 catches for 10,656 yards and 56 touchdowns so far in his 13-year career. Only 7 of those 19 receivers were drafted, and only Baltimore's Marquise Brown was selected in the first round, 25th overall in the 2019 draft. Of the remaining receivers, there are a whole lot of Cole Beasleys, Taylor Gabriels, Travis Benjamins, and Isaiah McKenzie's, and even more Tommy Lee Lewis's, Jaden Mickens's, JoJo Natson's, and Deontay Harris's. Who? That's the obvious point. Today's NFL doesn't have a lot of room for receivers under, say, 180 pounds, and less room for outside X-ISO targets who can beat top cornerbacks at that size. Deshaun Jackson has always relied on a transcendent ability to create open space and avoid contested catch situations with pure speed and agility. Marquise Brown is still a work in progress. The Bills have Cole Beasley and Isaiah McKenzie as their primary slot receivers, and they're 2 of the NFL's best in that role, especially the underrated McKenzie, but you just don't often see smaller receivers as true number 1 guys. This is newly relevant with the presence in the 2021 draft of Alabama's Devonta Smith, who revealed on Monday that he weighs 170 pounds at 6'1". There wasn't a thing Smith couldn't do as a receiver for the Crimson Tide. Last season, he tied for first in the NCAA in deep receptions, 15, and ranked first in deep reception yards, 589. Smith also ranked first in screen receptions, 35, and screen yards, 304. So pretty much wherever he's going on a route, it's a bad deal for enemy defenses. That certainly applied. But what about at the Miami? Can Smith make those contested catches? Can he be like Deshaun Jackson and torch deep safeties enough to avoid the collisions he'd rather avoid? And can he be a true X-ISO receiver at the Dolphins as he was at the Alabama? Because with his tape and his production, it's a near inevitability that Smith will go in the top of the first round, and that just doesn't happen to career slot receivers. Smith seemed unperturbed about the potential problems. "I feel like it's not going to be any different than college," he said Wednesday. "I have played in the SEC. I feel like it's the toughest conference at the Miami. I know a lot of people that are bigger than me that have more problems than me, so I'm not worried about it at all. There's a specific shopping list Smith will have to fill to succeed at the next level, and he appears to check the boxes." In fact, he showed multiple ways in which he transcends his size limitations in just one game: Alabama's 52-24 win over Ohio State in the College Football Playoff National Championship game. Smith destroyed the Buckeyes' defense for 12 catches, 215 yards, and 3 touchdowns in the first half, and watching how he did it reveals the ways in which he'll be able to succeed at Miami. Asked at the 2021 Senior Bowl about Smith's size, Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores, whose team currently has the 3rd and 18th picks in the 2021 draft, threw the idea away as a concern. "This guy is a very, very good player," Flores said, per ESPN's Cameron Wolfe. "You can nitpick all you want about a guy's size, but good players are good players are good players. We all can see that. This guy is a very good player. He made a lot of plays in college. He made a lot of plays in the biggest games of the year. You can nitpick all day on things on people. He's a very good player, and it's been good getting to know him. He's a good kid, too. The best scouts and executives in any sport, in any industry, really, tend to fixate more on what a can do as opposed to what a person can't do. It's far easier to discount any player for this or that shortcoming, and far more valuable to see that player for what he is and how he fits into what you're trying to do." Last season, Devonta Smith caught 117 passes for 1,856 yards and 23 touchdowns. If you were unable to see how he could work in your offense, maybe Smith isn't the problem.